Scarborough, on the Yorkshire coast, was first settled by the Vikings over 1,000 years ago. Since then, it's always been a small but thriving fishing port. Many a local family has earned its living by going out to sea. In the early 20th century, the harbour used to be especially active in the summer.
You could walk across from Sunside right across to the far pier. Across decks. Harbour was that full.
They used to run the boats onto the beach sometimes and just land the herrings out of the boats into horse and cart on the beach and take them off. Couldn't get into land on the piers at all, you see.
The harbour was never still. You had to go over to the lighthouse pier and moor up there while the other boats could get to the fish market to unload. It was a very, very busy harbour, Scarborough Harbour in them days.
August in Scarborough Harbour saw the start of the herring season. As the herring shoals moved south along the coast, local boats were joined by the Scottish fisher fleet from various ports north of the border. They congregated at Scarborough for as long as the herrings were there.
As soon as the Scotch boats decided to come here, then the herring girls, as they call them, they followed them. And they took lodgings in the town, and they took parts of the pier over, and they had big troughs where they landed the herrings into, and their job was to get all the gill out of the herring. It was a big trade for the English ports anyway. After the war, they had to stop the fishing in the North Sea altogether with for herrings, and the herring trade finished, petered out. And now there's no sign of them at all, you know, it's done.
Some of the older fishermen attribute the decline of fishing to the disappearance of traditional methods, such as longline fishing.
The line was you start to shoot your lines with a buoy, and after that you tie your lines onto the anchor. The man with the nimblest fingers and the good eyesight picks every hook, which is 200 hooks on each line, at least 12 lines each day, baited them into the water, and every line's tied together. At the end of 12 lines, you finish with a marker buoy. After they get the whole lot of lines overboard, they give them an hour fish to get home. The fishermen have a rest, and then they start the day's work, pulling them back, which was maybe 4, 5 hours, 6 hours. It was very hard work.
I first went to sea when I was 16. There were steam trawlers at that time. I did a little bit, not much, maybe 6 or 7 months of line fishing, which I didn't like, so I dropped that. And my speciality was trawling. I stuck at it for my lifetime.
Line fishing, if it had kept on, I think they would have been going today, if the trawling hadn't been so good.
Well, yes, but fair enough. But you've got to keep up with the times. I mean, a lot of these chaps you're talking about, now as fishermen, they would have everybody with a piece of string sat on the pier end and catching fish that way. You can't. You've got to keep moving with the times.
Bill Scales, now retired, was one of the last local fishermen to work on a steam trawler.
Nowadays, you know, there's none of the herring fleet, steam drifters or steam trawlers no longer working out of Scarborough. They've all been replaced by a modern fleet of diesel engine ships. Hi, Dave. Hi, Bill. Hi. You got out?
Yes, please.
I don't know really, I can't really explain what did draw me to the sea, but I think it was obviously in my blood. My father, was at sea. My grandfather was at sea. But they didn't really have a big impact in me going. It was just one of them things really, living and, being in Scarborough, which is a working fishing port. Getting involved, helping people, just generally being keen.
The day usually starts at around 5 o'clock. We arrive on the pier, usually meet on the pier at 5. Straight aboard of the boat. The ropes are taken in, proceed to sea. It's only an hour at the most steaming, before you actually trawl the net.
The job's got a lot easier in terms of oiling and shooting and, where things are done. Not like these old timers that, they are hard people.
As long as fishermen have been working out at sea, they've constantly had to face dangerous situations.
The danger comes really with the weather. When you've got to go out on deck in weather, whether you've got the gear shut or you're going to shoot it, that's probably the most dangerous part when you're exposed to the elements.
You were scared at times, but you always thought, oh, well, skipper and crew, they're all experienced men, they know what they're doing. If it gets really too bad, then they'll knock off fishing. Well, it never seemed bad enough to knock off fishing.
There comes a time when you've got to stop and you do what they call dodging, and you're just trying to keep the ship's head up to the wind all the time, you see, and of course you can see every sea that comes at you, and sometimes you don't want to see them, and you just and that's it. Like a good soldier, never look behind.
Deep sea trawlermen who went to fishing grounds further afield encountered a particularly dangerous phenomenon.
We were on deck fishing, and the skipper was looking out the wheelhouse, and it was the first time for me, you see, this, and he shouted out the wheelhouse, get below, the frost's coming. We all went below, and we were only below, an hour, and he blew for us to come back up on deck again and get resumed fishing, and everything was white over. A small electric cable was 3 times its thickness with ice. Instead of getting in the fish, gutting the fish what was left on deck, we had to get up with axes and start chopping the ice away that had accumulated on the deck, so that if we got any more, it wasn't too much and they turned over. That was the danger of the frost, you see.
With these constant threats of danger out at sea, a culture of songs, fables and superstitions evolved amongst the fishermen.
They had some silly superstitions. Not to wash when the ship was going to sea, or you'd wash the crew away. Weekly wash, the family weekly wash. And if you saw a black cat cross your path when you was going down to the docks, to turn back, it was unlucky. And don't take an egg to sea. Unlucky to take eggs to sea. Never call a rat by its proper name, Always call it a long tail. It's unlucky to call them rats. And all it's silly.
Oh, they were the biggest things. Was shouldn't say the word, pigs. They were absolute bad luck then. To mention them, you call them Irish lambs or all sorts of things. Things that utter that dreaded word.
And there was a little rabbit running up the cliff. And I said to my dad, "Looky, there's a rabbit." And he went mad. He was so cross that I said there was a rabbit. He says, "We might as well take these 4 lines back home now. We shan't get nothing on them." They're so superstitious.
They were superstitious.
But he did go to sea, and I remember going the next day with him to Wall, and there was a big cod on the first hook. And I said, "That's been a rub. That tail's no good," what you said.
The superstitions are passed down. You know, they don't just go for one generation then stop, do they? It's like anything. They are passed down to the younger generation, definitely. And it definitely has to us.
In the years before World War II, the usual day catch of an inshore trawler used to be 200 to 400 stone. The same boat nowadays only lands 20 to 40 stone per trip on average.
All the boats that came in landed their own fish. We had what they call lumpers on the quay.
Used to land it in baskets, you see, with 2 men with hooks in each side and pull it up the piers like that in the baskets. Or if you had any big cod, they used to have a big long hook, long garth handles we call them. Used to pull them up, one at a time.
Used to lay a long plank
On
from
a long
from the pier down to the boat's deck. Hook the fish in that mouth and pull it up.
Pull it up.
One at a time, if they were big cod.
There used to be a man down the fish room, handing it up onto a stage in the fish room, fish by fish. You got all of it with 2 fingers in its eyes and its tail, and threw it where it had to go. And then the lumpers used to pull it ashore and lay it out in scores. All that's finished. They haven't seen any cod now for, what, a couple of years.
It's just been trawled and trawled and trawled. All the small stuff's been taken away, so there's nothing for the big to feed off, and you know, they don't give it a chance to breed.
We've let the foreigners into our own fishing grounds, the Spaniards and the Frenchmen, all the lot. And of course, the more ships there was, the easier it's been all cleaned up.
We had some good times when I first started, because it wasn't dying when I moved into it. There was still plenty of life, still plenty of money, and then it's just depleted and depleted and depleted.
This year is the worst we've ever seen. Worst I've ever seen, and I think I'm about the oldest fisherman walking about down there today. And I've never seen nothing like it. Now we could go on that fish market and just ask any of the chaps, is it all right if I get a bit, you know? Oh, go and help yourself. Get what you wanted for home, you know, to eat. You don't ask anybody today because they aren't catching enough.
Should catches continue to decline further, the future of Scarborough Harbour as a fishing port may well be in danger.
If there was a young person, if anybody's family that wanted to go into the industry, would you advise against it, or?
Well, I should think we advise against it at the time it is now. There's no prospects of getting a living.
Well, I should advise them not going to sea at all, and to get a job in a fish farm.
Or on land?
Or on anywhere, but go to sea.
On a farm?
I think we all agree that there's no future for young chaps going to sea.
Thinks I see a host of craft spreading their sails of even, as down the Humber they do glide, all bound for the northern sea. Methinks I see on each small craft a crew with hearts so brave, going out to earn the daily bread upon the restless wave. And it's 70 boys and men were lost from Grimsby town. From Yarmouth down to Scarborough, many hundreds more were drowned. Our herring craft, our trawlers, our fishing smacks as well, they long defied the bitter night and battled with the swell. They long defied the bitter night and battled with